Look at your phone. Right now, this very second. How many notifications do you have that you never asked for? How many people walked into your day without knocking? I'm not talking about your house. I'm talking about your head, your time, your energy. I'm talking about your life, slipping away in tiny pieces while you say yes out of politeness. In 2026, we live in the era of total availability. Algorithms trained us to respond within seconds. Your boss texts you at 10 at night. A family member calls in the middle of a meeting. A friend sends you a 15-minute voice note and expects you to listen right now. And you, because you're a good person, respond. Every time you respond, you send a silent but devastating message. My time has no owner. My energy is public property. My life is a shared space where anyone can park their urgencies. There's a lie they sold you since childhood, that being good means being available. That being generous means never saying no. That people who are real don't set conditions. And that lie is costing you more than you think. I'm not the one saying it. A philosophy that has survived 2,000 years in a world that changes every 5 minutes is saying it. Stoicism. This is not a TikTok trend, not a wellness hashtag. It's mental technology for not letting your life end up as everyone else's group project. Today, I'm not here to give you soft advice. I'm here to give you 5 red lines. 5 things that no matter how nicely they ask, with a smile, with "it'll only take a minute," you must never give away. Because here's the truth, few people will tell you. Every time you give up what you should protect, you're not being kind. You're training the world how to treat you. And the world learns fast. I've seen brilliant people get trapped in dynamics that drain the life out of them because they didn't set a clear boundary early enough. I've seen promising professionals burn out, not from hard work, but from the 1,000 quick favors they agreed to. I've seen generous hearts turn into emotional trash cans because they were taught that listening without limits was love. If you're ready to stop living reactively and start moving with direction, stay with me. This video will change how you use your time, your mind, and your dignity. This is not theory, it's practice. It's emotional survival in 2026. Subscribe. Now, if you want this to reach more people, and save this video because you'll want to come back to it more than once. 1. Never give them your time on demand. Your time isn't hours on a clock. It's your life in its rawest, most irreplaceable form. Every minute you hand over without thinking is a piece of existence you will never get back. And yet, it's the first thing people feel entitled to ask for. They don't ask for your time loudly. They arrive casually, politely, as if your time exists by default to solve their emergencies. Can you help me with something real quick? Do you have a minute? Can we take a look at this? It's super simple. Can you hop on Zoom for a second? Just 5 minutes. And you already know it'll be 40. These phrases sound harmless. They sound reasonable. And that's exactly why they work. That's the entry point. In modern life, especially in remote work, people test your limits through time. They don't start by asking for enormous sacrifices. They start by interrupting, by assuming availability, by normalizing access. First, it's a message at 10 at night, then a call on Sunday, then a meeting that will only take 10 minutes that stretches to 40. And slowly, your calendar stops being yours. You start living reactively, putting out other people's fires while your own house burns in silence. Marcus Aurelius wrote something that stings when you read it carefully. Do not allow your mind to be dragged in all directions by external demands. He understood something most people ignore. Whoever controls your time eventually controls your focus, your energy, and your priorities. This isn't a productivity problem. It's an identity problem. Think about it. Every time you let someone schedule your day without your permission, you vote against your own goals. Every rushed yes is a no to yourself. When you give your time on demand, you silently teach that your life is flexible, but theirs is fixed, that their urgency outweighs your intention, that you are adjustable, always available. And that's where resentment is born. You start feeling drained, scattered, falling behind in your own existence. On the surface, you're just helping, but underneath, you're abandoning your own goals to maintain someone else's comfort. A Stoic doesn't confuse kindness with total availability. Being disciplined with your time doesn't make you selfish. It makes you sovereign. The key isn't aggression, it's the pause. Before responding, stop, breathe. Ask yourself a silent question. Is this aligned with how I choose to live today? If the answer is no, you are not obligated to justify yourself. You don't owe long explanations. You don't owe guilt-driven yeses. I can't right now. That doesn't work for me today. I'll get back to you later. Notice something crucial. People who respect you will adjust. People who benefit from your lack of limits will resist. That resistance is information. When you stop being instantly available, you don't lose good relationships. You expose the unhealthy ones. There is a quiet power in choosing when and how you give your time. It signals that your life has direction, that your days are not open territory. And here's where the real change happens. When you protect your time, you reclaim your attention. When you reclaim your attention, you reclaim your agency. And when you reclaim your agency, you stop living at the mercy of other people's expectations. Remember this: being busy isn't the problem. A lack of limits is. Your time is not a favor you owe the world. It's a resource you invest according to your values. Give it deliberately, or others will spend it for you. 2. Never give them your emotional labor for free. Not all exhaustion comes from physical or mental work. A growing portion comes from carrying emotions that were never yours to hold. Emotional labor is one of the most invisible things people pull from you. There's no formal request, no clear transaction. It happens in silence, through endless conversations, repeated unloading, emotional dependency dressed up as closeness. They don't say, "Can I dump all my emotional weight on you?" They say, "Do you have a second? I just need someone who gets me. You're the only one I can tell this to. I don't know what I'd do without you. You always understand me." And there's the trap, the word always. At first it feels like trust, like intimacy. But over time, a pattern emerges. They talk, you listen, they release, you absorb. And when it's your turn to speak, the space has already closed. Stoicism draws a clear line here. You are responsible for your own internal state. You are not responsible for managing someone else's emotional chaos. That's not indifference. That's discernment. The Stoics believed that what repeatedly enters the mind shapes the character. If you constantly allow the anxiety, rage, and confusion of others to flood your inner world, you lose clarity. Your peace erodes. Not because you're weak, but because you have no filter. This is where many capable people get trapped. They confuse emotional endurance with virtue. They believe being there for everyone is proof of moral strength. But in reality, Emotional availability without limits usually comes from avoidance, from avoiding saying no, from avoiding discomfort, from fearing being seen as cold. Seneca warned that we suffer more in imagination than in reality, which also implies we suffer through proximity. By listening to the same unresolved problems over and over, you start living inside someone else's mental loop. And loops don't move forward, they just spin. 3. Never give them access to your decisions. There is a subtle difference between asking out of concern and asking out of control. And if you're not paying attention, you'll confuse the two. Some people don't want to help you decide. They want to be part of the decision because influence feels like power. And it usually starts soft, so soft you don't even notice. Are you sure that's a good idea? I'm only telling you because I care. If I were you, I'd do it differently. I'm not telling you what to do, just think it through. On the surface, they sound harmless, even affectionate. But over time, the questions don't stop. They follow every choice you make. Your career, your relationships, your lifestyle, your rhythm. Slowly, your decisions become group discussions, and without realizing it, you start seeking permission instead of clarity. Stoicism draws a hard line here. Other people do not live with the consequences of your choices. You do. You pay the price, you walk the path. They only give opinions from the sidewalk. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that no one else could think, choose, or act in his place. That wasn't arrogance, that was responsibility. Understanding that delegating your decisions, even emotionally, is a form of self-abandonment. When you give access to your decisions, you give access to your direction. And direction defines a life. Many people ask questions not to understand you, but to steer you, sometimes toward what makes them comfortable, sometimes toward what confirms their worldview, sometimes toward what keeps you close, predictable, manageable. That's why unsolicited advice is rarely neutral. It usually arrives wrapped in concern, but underneath lies discomfort with your autonomy. Notice the pattern. They question you more when you grow. They worry more when you change. They advise more when your path doesn't look like theirs. That's not guidance. That's friction against your independence. Stoicism teaches that clarity comes from within, through reasoned reflection, not external consensus. Seeking endless validation weakens judgment. It trains you to doubt before acting and to explain yourself afterward. And explanation is a trap. The more you explain your decisions, the more you invite debate. The more you invite debate, the more you push authority away from yourself. Eventually, you're no longer deciding. You're defending. You're litigating your own life. A Stoic doesn't bring their decisions to public trial. That doesn't mean rejecting all advice. It means choosing who has access. There's a difference between counsel and commentary. Counsel comes from those who understand your values, respect your agency, and accept your final word. Commentary comes from those who feel entitled to an opinion simply because they're present. One strengthens you, the other dilutes you. Epictetus taught that if you want to improve, you must be willing to seem foolish in the eyes of others. What he meant is this: when you stop needing approval, you stop shaping your life around other people's reactions. This is where many people struggle the most. They confuse peace with agreement. They confuse harmony with compliance. They confuse advice with authority. They think that if everyone agrees, they're at peace. No. True peace is internal. It's knowing you made the right decision for yourself. even if 5 people close to you question it. The Stoic response is calm, not confrontational. You don't argue, you don't persuade, you don't overshare. You respond briefly, you decide privately, you move forward in silence. I've thought it through. This works for me. I'm comfortable with my choice. Thank you for your perspective, but I've already decided. No debate, no defense. Then watch what happens. Those who respect you will accept your limit. Those who depended on your openness to exert influence will push harder. That push reveals the motive. Giving access to your decisions teaches that your life is negotiable. Taking that access back gives weight to your choices. It signals that your path is not a public project. Stoicism is not about isolation. It's about authorship. You can listen without obeying. You can consider without conceding. You can hear without handing over the wheel. Here's the truth many learn too late. Once you let others shape your decisions, you also let them shape your regrets. And they won't carry those regrets with you. They won't pay the bills. They won't live through the sleepless nights. You will. Your life is not a committee decision. It's a personal responsibility. Protect your choices the way you protect your time and energy. Not because you're superior, but because you're the only one accountable. Choose carefully who gets a vote. And remember, the final decision is always, always, always yours. 4. Never give them your silence in the face of disrespect. Silence can be powerful, but silence can also be permission. And in many cases, it's complicity dressed up as maturity. Many people misread this Stoic idea. They hear that Stoics value calm, restraint, emotional control, and they translate it as enduring everything in silence. They believe staying quiet makes them mature, unshakable, above the noise. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. The difference lies in the choice. There is a dangerous kind of silence that has nothing to do with wisdom. It's the silence born of fear. Fear of conflict, fear of rejection, fear of making someone uncomfortable. And when silence comes from fear, it doesn't preserve dignity. It buries it alive. Disrespect rarely arrives at full volume. It's the camouflaged aggression that wears you down. It shows up as jokes that go too far, comments that subtly diminish you, sarcasm disguised as humor. I'm just kidding. Don't be so sensitive. Passive aggression that leaves you questioning whether you imagined it. Why are you always so serious? And because it's subtle, you doubt yourself. You tell yourself, it's not worth it. Maybe they didn't mean anything by it. I'll just let it go. I don't want drama. I'm bigger than this. That doubt is the opening. That rationalization is the door you open yourself. Stoicism doesn't teach submission. It teaches self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius spoke of maintaining inner calm, but he never advocated for allowing your character to be worn down for someone else's comfort. Here's the hard truth. When you go silent in the face of repeated disrespect, you're not keeping the peace. You're teaching people how to treat you. Disrespect thrives in ambiguity. When nothing is said, the other person fills the space. They assume acceptance, or weakness, or indifference. They rarely assume mature restraint. And once a line is crossed without consequence, it gets crossed again and again, each time more easily. This is where many disciplined people struggle most. They're not reactive by nature. They don't want drama. They don't want to stoop to that level. So they endure and endure until the restraint becomes silent resentment, bitterness wearing the costume of serenity. Stoicism warns against this internal corrosion. Contained anger doesn't disappear. It hardens. It distorts judgment. It turns calm into bitterness. It makes you someone who never says anything, but feels everything. The Stoic solution isn't explosive confrontation. It's measured clarity. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to insult. You don't need to win. You need to name the behavior, calmly, briefly, without emotional charge. 5. Never give them unlimited second chances. Forgiveness is often praised as strength, but unlimited forgiveness is frequently confused with virtue. Stoicism makes a careful distinction here, one that many people ignore to their own detriment. Forgiving is human. Continuing to expose yourself to the same harm is not noble. It's emotional negligence. It's self-sabotage with the name of generosity. Some people don't change because they are forgiven. They repeat because they are allowed to. They hurt you, they apologize, you forgive, the cycle resets. It's a perfect loop. For them. For you, it's a trap. At first, it sounds sincere. I didn't mean it. I promise it won't happen again. I was going through a rough time. And because you are reasonable, empathetic, and fair, you give another chance. Then another, and another. Each time believing this will be the moment things improve. But improvement never comes. Only repetition. Stoicism teaches a simple but uncomfortable truth. Character is revealed through patterns, not promises. Words are easy. Apologies are easy. Change is not. Change requires visible effort, sustained action. Marcus Aurelius warned against expecting people to act against their nature, not out of cynicism, but out of clarity. When someone consistently shows you who they are, the Stoic response isn't hope, it's adjustment. It's accepting the evidence. Unlimited second chances silently destroy self-respect. Every time you excuse the same behavior, you send a message, not just to them, but to yourself. You tell yourself that your limits are flexible, that your pain is negotiable. That promises way more than actions. And over time, something changes inside you. You become hesitant, guarded, smaller around them. Not because they're powerful, but because you're constantly bracing for disappointment. That anticipation is exhausting. That permanent vigilance consumes you. Stoicism is not cruel. It's precise. It doesn't demand revenge. It doesn't demand punishment. It demands realism. It demands that you see what is actually there, not what you wish were there. A Stoic doesn't cut people off at the first mistake, but a Stoic also doesn't confuse mercy with blindness. There is a point where patience stops being wisdom and starts being self-harm. Did the behavior change, or did the apology just get more polished? Look closely. Do their actions align with their words? Do they take responsibility without deflecting? Do they make measurable adjustments over time? Or do they simply reset the cycle? Harm, apology, relief, repetition. That cycle isn't accidental, it's a system, and it only works if you keep participating. Stoicism asks you, how many more rounds are you going to do? Seneca wrote that we suffer more often than necessary because we don't learn from experience. In relationships, that suffering comes from ignoring evidence in favor of hope. Hope feels generous. Distance feels cold. But Stoicism reminds you that distance can be an act of self-respect. Forgiving doesn't require continued access. Understanding doesn't require continued exposure. You can release resentment without reopening the door. Forgiveness is for you, not for them. This is where many people struggle. They believe walking away makes them harsh, unforgiving, or morally inferior. Family sticks together. Real friends don't give up. But Stoicism rejects that emotional blackmail. Your duty is not to preserve every connection at any cost. Your duty is to preserve your character and your peace. The Stoic response to repeated harm is not rage, it's withdrawal. Quiet, serene, final. No announcements, no dramatic exits, no long explanations, just distance. A door that stops opening, a space that's no longer available. Distance is not punishment, it's protection. It's the first line of defense. It's the most healing decision when harm is recurring. When you stop giving unlimited chances, you recover stability. You recover clarity. You recover the ability to trust yourself again. You stop living in constant anticipation of disappointment. Your nervous system stands down. Your mind reclaims space. Pay attention to how people respond when the chances run out. Those who truly value you will reflect. They may even change. Those who depended on your tolerance will accuse, "You've changed." Those who benefited from your forgiveness will panic. They'll reach for more apologies, bigger promises. None of those reactions require a response. Someone else's panic is not evidence that your decision is wrong. Stoicism teaches that you are not responsible for how others feel about your limits. You are only responsible for holding them. Unlimited chances teach that consequences are optional. Limited access teaches that respect is mandatory. And here is the final truth. Some people only learn when access is taken away. Some never learn. In both cases, your role is the same. Step back, keep your distance. You are not obligated to remain in situations that repeatedly violate your values. You are not obligated to sacrifice peace for history. You are not obligated to keep reopening wounds to prove you're kind. Kindness without discernment is not virtue. It's vulnerability without armor. Stoicism doesn't harden you, it sharpens you. Forgive once. Observe carefully. And if the pattern continues, choose distance. Without guilt, without drama, without explanation. Because the most respectful response toward yourself is sometimes the quietest one. And distance, when deliberately chosen, is not abandonment. It's wisdom. It's self-love in its purest form. Conclusion. Today we've walked through 5 things you should never give people, no matter how nicely they ask. Not your time on demand, not your emotional labor for free, not control over your decisions, not your silence in the face of disrespect, and not unlimited second chances. These are not rules to make you cold. They are principles to make you clear, so that your yes means something and your no carries weight. Stoicism was never about isolating yourself. It was about refusing to abandon yourself just to be accepted. The best way to serve the world is to show up as a complete version of yourself. And more importantly, they change how you treat yourself. Because at the end of the day, that's the relationship that matters most. If this video resonated with you, take a moment to reflect and write in the comments just one sentence. I choose self-respect. It's not just a phrase. It's a public commitment to yourself. It's a line in the sand. Thank you for spending this time here, for thinking deeply, for choosing growth over comfort. That choice already makes you different, already makes you stronger. If you want more Stoic ideas on boundaries, discipline, and inner strength, subscribe and stay with us. Hit the bell so you don't miss our next upload. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, someone who is giving too much and receiving too little, someone who needs to remember that their boundaries are sacred. Until next time, walk your path with calm, with firmness, and without apologizing for existing with direction. without apologizing for being whole, without apologizing for protecting what makes you you.